I died on the day the general returned to the capital. He held his beloved princess in his arms, passing by my coffin. My belongings were burned to ashes by him. Owned by one, the sachets I embroidered for him, the shoes and socks I sewed, the scriptures I copied in blood. Later, he clutched my half-finished embroidered shoe, crying his heart out. He finally realized that the one he swore to protect was me. Shen Yuang, I told you long ago. But back then, you risked your life to rescue the princess from the enemy's hands. You couldn't spare a thought for me. When Shen Yuang passed by my coffin, he abruptly reined in his horse, his expression somewhat startled. The princess wore a veil, curled up elegantly in his arms like a cat. Yin-yang. She read the small characters on the coffin lid, her tone somewhat displeased. Sounds like a girl's name. Do you know her? Shen Yuang kissed the top of her hair tenderly. I had never seen him so affectionate. With a smile on his lips, he said casually, "Nobody important." I thought I'd heard wrong and slapped my ears hard. For the past 3 years, I was the only woman by Shen Yuang's side every night of passionate intimacy, every whispered word I remembered clearly. Before he went to war, he clearly said he would marry me when he returned. At that time, I had my eyes closed. Shen Yuang probably thought I was asleep, but I heard it, and I had been longing for it ever since. Even until death, I blamed myself for being so pathetic. Why couldn't I just wait? Wait for him to come back, to look at him one more time, to kiss him once more. But he said I wasn't anyone important. Shen Yuang. Make yourself clear, Shen Yuang. I screamed my lungs out, tears falling in big drops, my heart twisting in pain. I reached out to grab the hem of his clothes, but I couldn't touch him anymore. I clenched my fists and pounded hard on my chest. I felt suffocated, about to explode from the suffocation. Shen Yuang left without looking back, unwilling to give up. I chased after his figure, and a gust of wind lifted the princess's veil. She had almost the same face as mine. It felt like someone had slapped me out of nowhere. My heart burned with a stinging pain, and I couldn't come to my senses no matter what. I followed Shen Yuang in a daze. His Majesty led all the officials to welcome him back. He sat close to a few good friends, chatting with great interest. Shen Yuang, I am dead. How can you laugh so freely? There was a hideous long scar on Shen Yuang's neck. I heard he got it when he charged into the enemy camp alone to rescue the princess. It was last year on October 18th. I will forever remember the day we reunited. The princess held up her wine cup, her eyes full of affection. Shen Yuang replied to her, "It was worth it." He gazed at her tenderly and intently, suddenly becoming somewhat lost in thought. Others laughed at him. The divine martial general has been wise his whole life. How come he acts like a fool the moment he sees the princess? October 18th, Shen Yuang muttered to himself, then turned back and laughed along with everyone. I just feel like I've forgotten something. Shen Yuang, I wrote you letters. How could you forget last year on October 18th? You were at the border, charging into the enemy camp for the princess. And in the end, you won the beauty's heart that day. I gave birth to your child, Shen Yuang. The wounds you suffered back then must have hurt a lot. But what you don't know is that the pain of a woman giving birth is 10,000 times worse than yours. You always said I was as thin and frail as a stick, but you surely didn't know that so much blood could flow from my body that day. I almost bled dry, and it just wouldn't stop. The midwife asked me, save the mother or the child. I was terrified she'd mishear, so I cried and screamed, "Save the child, save the child." Because he is my child, and also your child. But at that time, you were busy bleeding and sweating for another woman. You didn't read my letters carefully later either, did you? At the third watch, Shen Yuang stumbled back to the general's mansion. Drunk in his room, there was a small bed placed against the wall. He dragged himself over and collapsed heavily. "Yin-yang, my head hurts. Help me massage it." He used to be intimate with me here every night. It is just that every time after we finished, Shen Yuang would always return to his own bed, sleeping separately from me. He said he'd been fighting wars for years and had nightmares every night, afraid he might hurt me in his sleep. How could I have been so foolish? I believed everything he said. I stayed in the Shen residence for 3 years, without even a proper courtyard of my own. Shen Yuang treated me as a cheap house prostitute, keeping me confined to this bed at his beck and call, catering to his every need. But this time Shen Yuang got no response. Unwilling to give up, he called out again, "Yin Yang, I still want to drink the calming soup you make." I stood by the bedside, biting my lips hard, my eyes swollen and sore. "Shen Yuang, what do you want from me? What do you need a substitute for?" "Your beloved has already returned. If you are suffering, go find her." "Oh, right. The princess is delicate and precious. You wouldn't bear to have her serve you like a slave. Why didn't you tell me from the start that you just needed a tool to vent on? Why did you pretend to love me and steal my heart? You might as well have died out there and never come back," the old butler answered at the door, calmly reminding him. "General Yin Yang is already gone." Shen Yuang said nothing. His eyelashes trembled slightly as he slowly opened his eyes, his gaze cold and lucid. He muttered to himself, "Gone? Really gone, huh?" He propped himself up, hung his head, and let out a laugh. "Burn everything that belonged to the dead." Throughout the entire great chi tales spread of Shen Yuang's rage for the princess's sake. I thought he would soon request the emperor's decree for a marriage. But 2 months passed in the blink of an eye, and he never even mentioned it. A few friends invited him out for drinks. After several rounds, Chen Lang, the second son of the censor's family, asked him, "You risked your life for the princess, but now that you've snatched her back, why aren't you in a hurry to marry her?" The princess was sitting behind the screen, clutching her handkerchief, shyly and nervously waiting for Shen Yuang's answer. Shen Yuang twirled his cup without saying a word. Chen Lang draped an arm over his shoulder and said with a sly smile, "Don't tell me you are still thinking about that woman in your residence." The princess's eyes flickered, her expression darkening. She and I, one living, one ghost, were both waiting to hear what Shen Yuang would say. How could that be? Shen Yuang tilted his head back and downed a cup of wine. Yeah, how could that be? I laughed at myself mockingly. Chen Lang was drunk and draped himself over Shen Yuang's shoulder, smugly saying, "I knew it. How could you ever be interested in a bedbug that crawled out of a brothel's? She only got anywhere by riding the princess's coattails, and she actually thought she was some phoenix. I just touched her once, and she dared to kick me into Moon Lake." Shen Yuang suddenly looked up and glared at him fiercely. That winter, Chen Lang groped me, and I kicked him into Moon Lake. He was furious and turned the tables, saying, "I seduced him and brazenly pushed him into the lake." I desperately tried to explain, but no one was willing to believe me. Shen Yuang made me kneel in public and apologize to Chen Lang. I grew up in a nunnery kneeling from childhood. Actually, kneeling once wasn't a big deal, but that one time when my knees hit the ground, I felt like I could never hold my head up again for the rest of my life. Shen Yuang's expression terrified Chen Lang. Before anyone could react, he swung his fist and smashed it into Chen Lang's face. He suddenly went crazy, punching and kicking Chen Lang. Several people tried to pull him back, but couldn't hold him. He stepped on Chen Lang's wrist. Though clearly furious, his expression was terrifyingly calm. "She is my woman. How dare you touch her?" I quietly watched this farce unfold, finding it truly laughable. The protection I never got while alive. Now that I am dead, I don't care for it anymore. Summonon pleaded for Chen Lang. "Brother Shen, calm down." Brother Chen was just confused. "How about another day? Invite Miss Yin Yang out and let Brother Chen apologize to her in person?" Shen Yuang shook off that person's hand. For the first time in so long, I saw his eyes redden. "She is dead. She is dead. Who can apologize to her now?" His roar was interrupted by the sound of a folding screen toppling over. The princess stared at Shen Yuang without a word. Her shoulders trembling, crying in a way that broke your heart, Shen Yuang froze in place, murmuring, "Enyang." He reached out to wipe away her tears. The princess flew into a rage and shouted, "Don't touch me!" She lowered her head and tried to run. Shen Yuang caught up in 2 steps, hoisted her onto his shoulder, and no matter how she kicked and hit him, he threw her into the general's manor carriage. "Liar, you are a liar. You clearly said she wasn't important yet. You like her. You actually like someone else. Shen Yuang held her confined in his embrace. I kept her by my side only because she resembles you, nothing more. Otherwise, with you not by my side for 3 years, how could I have endured? So she is just a little plaything you used to pass the time. The princess looked at Shen Yuang with a reddened nose. His gaze was dark and obscure. After a long while, he nodded and said, Yes. And it is not because of her that you didn't want to marry me? Of course not. I was just thinking that you had just returned to the capital, and perhaps you wanted to spend more time by His Majesty's side. The princess shook her head vigorously. I don't want that. I don't want to wait any more. Go tell father right now that you want to marry me. Go, go. Her blushing face was adorable, and Shen Yuang liked women like this. In the past, whenever I threw a little tantrum, he would always silence me with a kiss butt. Now his gaze lingered on the princess's face for a long time. Then he gave her a long and passionate kiss, fervent enough to melt away all barriers. Shen Yuang wrote the memorial requesting to marry the princess as fast as he could. From then on, he accompanied the princess every day playing the chin and painting, touring mountains and enjoying the waters, as if to make up for the tears she shed for him that day. He took her to Sixie's studio for tea tasting, sitting in the seat where I usually sat, watching the small bridge over flowing water and the houses along the ancient path. The princess complained a little. So dirty. Let's invite some people to go play at the other palace. If anyone finds out I came to such a shabby place, they'd laugh their teeth off. She loved excitement, enjoyed being surrounded by crowds. But Shen Yuang didn't like that. He entered the court when young, opening his eyes to nothing but schemes and deceptions. In his leisure, he only wanted to find a quiet place, drink tea, and chat with his beloved. Spending lazy days Sixie's studio was Shen Yuang's favorite place. Every day he was away from home. I would come sit here for a while. I even carved words on the railing beside me over and over, devoutly missing him. The princess saw it and read with a cold snort. Yin Yang waits for Yulong's return. Shen Yuang, do you know? After you left, I never had a single peaceful sleep. Whenever I close my eyes, I see you covered in blood. I am so afraid that blood is yours. I am really so afraid. I used my own blood to copy the peace scripture. Word by word, I thought as long as you are safe, even if it meant trading my life. I would be willing, now my wish has come true, but I regret it. Shen Yuang took a sip of tea, his expression unchanged. The princess was annoyed by his composure and started making a fuss again. You brought me to a place she has been to. What is that supposed to mean? Anywhere she is sat, I am afraid it'll dirty my clothes. Shen Yuang patiently coaxed her. I never brought her here if she wanted to come. I couldn't stop her. An Yang stopped fussing over her. She was just a passerby. Not just a passerby, but also a dead person. Only women understand a woman's heart. We all know that the living can never compete with the dead. An Yang wouldn't let up and kept pressing. You must be so desperate for a man you've gone crazy. One look, and anyone can tell you are not a decent girl, shameless and scandalous. You are just going to let her ruin your reputation like this. The princess grabbed whatever was nearby and smashed it against the railing, desperately trying to break off the section where I had carved the words. Shen Yuang rarely spoke to her in such a cold tone. And Yang, you used to be so proper. How did you become so petty after just 3 years apart? Look at yourself. Where is the princess in you now? The princess froze. Her eyes reddened as she choked out, Shen Yuang, are you blaming me for her sake now? Her tears fell drop by drop onto the table. She seemed truly heartbroken. You say I've changed, but have you ever thought about what kind of life I've lived these 3 years? Have you forgotten what you saw the night you rescued me? Father Emperor married me off to a beast. A beast! What is a princess of great Qi worth in an enemy nation? Shen Yuang, while you were out having fun with other women, I was tortured for 3 whole years. How could you say that to me? You used to never bear to say a single harsh word to me. I get it now, Shen Yuang. You think I am tainted, don't you? She suddenly swept all the tea sets beside her onto the ground, stood up, and pointed right at Shen Yuang's nose. Let me tell you, I am no longer a princess, and Yin Yang is not fit to be my substitute. Before the wedding, I want every trace of her completely gone. Princess Anyang's renowned beauty had spread to every corner of the Great Qi since she was young. As the emperor's only daughter, she was more favored than ordinary princes, truly deserving of being called a precious royal. She was brilliantly talented, dignified, and composed. No woman in the world could compare to her. Yet now she had become so hysterical, it was said that the enemy nation's crown prince, who was slain by Shen Yuang's own hand, was an absolute lecherous demon. People died in his residence every few days, mostly women who died on his bed. The princess ran away crying. Shen Yuang clenched his fist but didn't move this time. He didn't chase after her. He stood up and walked to the railing, touching the words carved on it. Yin Yang awaits. What are you waiting for me to do? He sat in the spot where I always sat, where you could see the city gate with just a glance up. Shen Yuang smiled, his eyes empty, talking to himself. I used to say you were stubborn, and you'd talk back and deny it. Those 2 gates, you stared at them every day. Did you think that would make me come back faster? Yin Yang, you are such a fool, giving your heart to someone unworthy. You are a genuine fool. Can't be helped. Who told me to get caught in the rain and develop a fever as a child, without getting treated in time? From then on, I became both stupid and stubborn. But I am not stupid. Shen Yuang, if you hadn't deceived me, I would never have fallen in love with you. If I were still alive, you would see that I no longer love you. After that, Shen Yuang never went to see the princess again. I secretly entered the palace and saw the empress patiently coaxing the princess for a long time. She said, which woman doesn't want a man's true heart? Shen Yuang treated me as a substitute. I was already pitiful enough, and the princess really didn't need to quarrel with Shen Yuang over a substitute. The empress is a kind and understanding person. After Shen Yuang left the capital, she summoned me several times. Such a lofty person, every time she saw me, she would hold my hand and chat cheerfully with me. She said she liked me very much and felt close to me just by looking at me one time. She invited me for milk tea, and I got morning sickness and dirtied my dress. She actually helped me change into clean clothes with her own hands, and even redid my hair for me. I am not someone who cries easily, but that day I embarrassed myself in front of her, crying my eyes out. Her hand stroking my hair was really so gentle, so warm. I said something treasonous, I said. Your Majesty, you have the scent of my mother on you. She didn't blame me, and even said she had a special connection with me, and she treated me like a daughter too. Thinking about it now, I have the same face as the princess, so the empress must have also treated me as her substitute. About half a month later, the princess finally gave in. She wrote an apology letter, holding it with both hands, head lowered as she presented it before Shen Yuang. Her sincere attitude was adorable. Yuang, you are right. As long as I am still a princess of Great Qi, even for a single day, I shouldn't abandon my composure. I shouldn't lower myself to quarrel with a servant like Yin Yang. I was just scared that you wouldn't like me anymore. I was afraid you'd despise me, afraid that one day I'd wake up and you'd suddenly tell me you don't want me anymore. She held back her tears, her voice choked with sobs, once again winning Shen Yuang's heartache. Shen Yuang reached out and pulled the princess into his arms, sighing. I said I'd stay by your side for a lifetime, and I mean a lifetime that will never change. The princess raised her hand and gently pounded his chest, pouting. No, I don't remember you ever saying that. Shen Yuang furrowed his brows tightly, his gaze falling into midair, somewhat dazed. I said it, you forgot. He comforted her somewhat perfunctorily. Last time I also spoke too harshly. I am sorry. You've been living in fear for 3 years out there. One of these days, I'll take you to Qingquan Temple to pray to the Buddha and calm your mind. Qingquan Temple, that is where I keep an eternal lamp burning for my dead child. On the road to Qingquan Temple, the princess was stopped by a young girl. Big sister, you haven't come in so long. I just saw you smile. You look so pretty when you smile. Don't cry anymore. Okay, My mother said, "If the child is gone, you can always have another." She mistook the princess for me. The princess frowned and pushed her away, scaring the little girl to tears. "What nonsense are you spouting? Where did this wild brat come from? How dare you curse me? Watch out, or I'll cut out your tongue." Shen Yuang stopped her and took out a piece of candy, placing it in the little girl's hand. He gently coaxed her until she calmed down. The little girl stopped crying, pouted and glanced at the princess, then ran off clutching the candy. The princess took out a handkerchief and handed it to Shen Yuang, saying with disgust, "Why do you bother with her? So filthy, hurry and wipe your hands. Children are the most annoying." Shen Yuang didn't take the handkerchief, nor did he respond to her words. He likes children. He used to whisper in my ear all the time, saying he wanted me to bear him 10 or 8 little babies. I laughed and scolded him. Did he think he was breeding piglets? He just said, "Sure, let's have them." He could afford to raise them anyway. Shen Yuang walked silently into Qingquan Temple, head lowered, lost in thought. The princess tentatively tried to make conversation. "I remember you like children. In the future, we could have 10 or 8. I was stunned for a moment. Not sure if I should say the princess was too naive. Childbirth for a woman is like walking through the gates of hell. Even if she is a princess, it is no exception. How could she burden herself with such heavy shackles? But I thought Shen Yuang must be pleased. Yet he said to the princess, "You are afraid of pain. If you don't want to bear children, there is no need to force yourself." How much he cherished her, but the princess didn't appreciate it. "No one but me is allowed to bear your children. They're not worthy." She threw another tantrum, flung her hand away, and walked ahead with her head down in a huff, then knelt angrily before the Buddha. How could this be, right, Shen Yuang? Let her be. He stopped in front of the eternal lamps. My heart skipped a beat. Just half a step to the right, and he would see my daughter's name. Shen Yuang gazed silently, very intently, as if searching for something. He glanced to the left, and the princess followed over. I screamed, "No, no," but it was too late. She spotted my treasure at once, then her face changed drastically. She grabbed that eternal lamp and smashed it on the ground, stomping on it viciously. I collapsed to the ground, trying to grab her feet, but I couldn't grasp anything. My child, she has no lamp on the road to reincarnation. She'll be scared. She is still so little. What if she takes the wrong path?" Shen Yuang watched in shock as the princess went mad. A moment later, he shoved her away. He picked up the remains from the ground, slowly stood up as if mustering his courage, and approached the lamp stand. The empty slot read, "Daughter of Yulang and Yinyang Linglong." Wan Shen Yuang lit a lamp for Linglong again. He stood frozen before the lamp until nightfall. A tear fell without warning, pulling him back to reality. He rode his horse at full speed back to the general's mansion and punished everyone in the entire household. Yinyang gave birth to this general's child. Why was no one reporting it? This general's daughter died. Why was no one reporting it? The old butler knelt at his feet, as composed as always. "Reporting to the general, Yinyang did send you letters. On the 18th of October, when Miss Linglong was born, Yinyang dragged her exhausted body to write you a letter with the good news. 2 months later, the young miss was too frail to survive the winter. Yinyang said not to disturb the general. She worried you would be distracted on the battlefield and said she would tell you when you returned. Letter, the 18th of October. Shen Yuang suddenly seemed to remember something and rushed back to the room like a madman, frantically searching beneath his armor. Then he pulled out a blood-stained letter. The letter had long since stuck together and couldn't be opened anymore. He clutched the letter, his fist slamming hard against the wall over and over until he finally slumped against the wall, drained of all strength. He stood there in a daze for a while, as if he didn't know who he was or what he should do. Like a walking corpse, he took out a small box from under the bed and opened it numbly. Inside, the box was a pair of embroidered shoes. The shoes weren't large, looking like they'd fit a girl of about 10. Clearly a pair of shoes. Yet one was brand new while the other was worn and old, with traces of smoke and fire damage. Shen Yuang's gaze slowly focused. He suddenly grabbed the old shoe and roared, "Whose shoe is this? Who put it in here? Who touched my box? I was the one who moved the box, and I was the one who put the shoes there. That old shoe is mine. That new shoe is also mine. Shen Yuang, you'll never know how ecstatic I was when I accidentally discovered this box that day and saw my shoes inside. The flutter of my heart from our youth turned out to be the love of my life. How wondrous this feeling is, I couldn't wait to share it with you. I wrote a thick letter from Ling Long to the embroidered shoes, every little bit filled with my longing and anticipation back. Then, I firmly believed that our future would definitely be happy. But Shen Yuang, you never properly read my letter. What were you doing at that time? I don't know. Anyway, you couldn't be bothered with me, Shen Yuang. Look at yourself. You kept the shoes I gave you so carefully, so why did you ruin our relationship so badly? Shen Yuang wailed loudly. He sat on the ground, clutching my shoes, clutching the letter I wrote to him, holding on tight, not daring to let go, as if begging that I could still come back. I laughed wildly by his side. Shen Yuang, I hate you. I have plenty of ways to make sure you never find peace for the rest of your life, forever chasing regret. Shen Yuang wanted to break off the engagement. The princess's angry expression slowly turned stiff. Shen Yuang, she is dead. You want to break off the engagement with me for a dead person? She rushed down from her seat, tearing at Shen Yuang, kicking and hitting him. How dare you do this to me, you liar, you bastard! You were the one who approached me first. You said you'd stay by my side forever. Shen Yuang gripped her hands, pinning her to one side. He took out that brand new embroidered shoe, his expression terrifyingly cold. Yes, I was the one who approached you first. Because you lied, because you said this shoe was yours. Back then, Shuiyuan Nunnery was attacked by bandits who killed and set fires. Shen Yuang was recovering from his injuries in the nunnery and couldn't move, so I found a place to hide him. Before I left, he asked me to leave a token, saying that no matter where in the world he would find me someday. He said since I saved him for one day, he would repay me for a lifetime. I didn't have anything good on me to leave, so I took off a shoe and stuffed it into his hands. The princess shouted, "It is mine! It is mine! Mother said this shoe is mine." The empress slapped the table, exuding quite an imposing aura. General Shen, have you gone mad? How dare you overstep like this? Do you think this is your Shen family's back garden? Shen Yuang ignored her, only staring at the princess, and asked again. This subject asks the princess once more, was it you who saved this subject at Shuiyuan Nunnery that year? The princess lied without batting an eye. I've said before, it was me. Shen Yuang rebuked her. You are absolutely beyond saving. The empress was so angry she was panting heavily. General Shen, you are making endless fuss over a single shoe. That shoe was originally a palace design. This empress is telling you it belongs to Anyang. Could we possibly be lying to you? Shen Yuang carried an air of arrogance, slightly lowering his head, and said meaningfully, whose shoe this really is, your majesty knows in her heart. The empress's gaze flickered, as if struck at a sore spot, and she changed the subject, ordering him to leave. Marriage is a matter of mutual consent. Since General Shen has no interest in Anyang, I won't use my power to force you. You may leave. Anyang cried and grabbed Shen Yuang's hand, her words coming out broken and fragmented. No, no, don't go. You said you would marry me. Shen Yuang, do you love a person or a pair of shoes? Shen Yuang let out a cold laugh and pushed her away. The one I love, the one I want to marry, is not you, you habitual liar, selfish and vicious. Since you claimed to be the one I was looking for, we've met a total of 16 times. 16 times, and not once did I see you. What I saw was always that frank and adorable girl from Shuiyuan Nunnery who made my heart flutter. So who is she? Is she Yin Yang? Is there really such a coincidence in this world? Shen Yuang, you just fell out of love. Why do you have to push all the blame onto me? Shen Yuang's hands clenched tightly. He gritted his teeth, lowering his head to hide his tears. Yes, it is her. It is Yin Yang. There really is such a coincidence in this world, And there is also someone as stupid as me, clearly in love yet deceiving myself, missing the fated marriage, being played like a fool by a single lie. Shen Yuang decided to move my grave into the Shen family ancestral cemetery. The princess rushed over upon hearing the news, arriving before him, intent on digging up the grave, leaving me no peace even in death. By the time Shen Yuang arrived, my coffin lid had already been pried open. The princess sat dazed to the side, and upon seeing him come, hurriedly threw herself at him to block his way. "You are not allowed to look. You are not allowed to look." He shoved her aside and stumbled toward my coffin, only to find it completely empty, with nothing inside. "Where is she? What did you do with her?" He looked ferocious, as if ready to snap the princess's neck at any moment. Others knelt down and clung to his legs, crying out, "General, this coffin was empty to begin with, General." A glimmer of hope ignited in Shen Yuang's eyes. "So Yin Yang isn't dead?" The princess screamed, cutting her off. "She is dead. She is dead. She can't possibly be alive." Before she could finish, Shen Yuang grabbed her chin and said viciously, "Say one more word, and I'll make sure you can never open your mouth again. Why is it that, born from the same womb, you grew up with everything going your way while she had to suffer so much?" It seems Shen Yuang had already investigated and found out everything. I should have been a princess too. The Empress gave birth to me and Enyang, a pair of twin girls that year happened to coincide with a drought, and the imperial astrologer declared twins to be an ill omen. The emperor ordered all twins in the realm to be eliminated. Fearing her position as empress would be implicated, the empress decided to abandon one of the baby girls. Unfortunately, the one chosen was me. I was sent to the distant Shuiyuan nunnery. The matron who escorted me out of the palace despised me. She said if it weren't for me, she wouldn't have to suffer in a place like a nunnery. She was often angry, and every time she was unhappy, she would use various palace punishments on me. One rainy year, on a whim, she made me lie in the rain, then covered my face with yellow paper. The paper was soaked by the rain, sticking tightly to my face. She stood under the eaves, watching me struggle desperately like a fish that couldn't breathe, thrashing in the water. I almost died, but fortunately, I was saved by the abbess. After that, I fell seriously ill, and the fever damaged my mind. I couldn't remember much of the past anymore. I forgot that I was supposed to be a princess until I discovered that the empress had poisoned me in Linglong. After giving birth to Linglong, my health never improved, and neither did Linglong's. She was always breathing out more than breathing in, never crying or fussing, pitifully quiet. I took her to see famous doctors in the capital, but none of them could figure out what was wrong. In the end, it was a wandering monk who took pity on us, mother and daughter, and secretly told us that we had been poisoned by a rare palace toxin, and there was no cure in the common world. I felt like I was struck by lightning. I held my child and ran to the palace gates to request an audience with the empress. The moment I saw her, I remembered everything. I called out to her, "Mother, mother, how could you be so cruel?" She slapped me across the face, scolding me for talking nonsense. She threw Shen Yuang's letter at my feet. The letter said he had rescued the princess, repelled the enemy, and would soon set off to return to the capital. He said he would marry her, make her the most glamorous bride, and treat her well for the rest of his life. He only begged His Majesty to approve his request. "Shen Yuang, you never replied a single word to the letters I sent you, so you were busy seeking to marry the princess. Yin Yang, don't hate me in this world. There can only be one princess. It was already merciful of me to let you live until now. And Yang is back, and General Shen won't want you anymore. What is the point of you staying alive? Don't worry, the poison you took was personally prepared on my orders. Mother knows you are afraid of pain. It won't hurt. You'll just fall asleep, and then you'll be gone. It won't hurt." Linglong drank my milk, so naturally she wouldn't survive either. "Shen Yuang, do you know what it feels like to kill your own child with your own hands, watching her, little by little, stop breathing under my hands? I wished I could cut myself into 1,000 pieces, but I had no choice. I was afraid if I died first, no one would perform the rites for her. I could become a vengeful ghost lingering in this world, but my child couldn't being reborn into my womb in this life. She was truly pitied. Before she could even open her eyes to see this world, she had to die with me. I keep an eternal lamp lit for her. I pray she'll have peace in her next life, peace in every life. But my mind really wasn't working well anymore. Right before I died, I actually started to forget all these things again, making me shed so many tears for you, for her, all for nothing. I looked at that empty coffin and suddenly understood everything. I really did die. My body was already given to someone I trusted, asking her to bury me somewhere no one could ever find. And I remained in the mortal world because there were still some important things I needed to see with my own eyes. Shen Yuang revealed everything to His Majesty about the Empress giving birth to twins back then. The Empress committed the crime of deceiving the Emperor. She was stripped of her position as Empress and granted a cup of poisoned wine. Before she died, she held a pair of adorable little cloth shoes in her arms, smiling with composure. She said, "As expected of my daughter, Tutui." I said I would make her pay with her life. I wasn't just talking. As for the princess, after the sudden turn of events, she had already gone completely mad. She was imprisoned in a remote side hall, probably never to see the light of day again. All of this, step by step, was entirely within my plan. Having spent over 3 years with Shen Yuang day and night, I knew his temperament inside and out. I didn't need to do anything. All I needed was one embroidered shoe, and he would go through hell and high water for me. Ever since he saw my empty coffin, Shen Yuang went crazy searching for me everywhere. I calculated the timing carefully, waiting until he was exhausted from searching, and on the verge of despair, when a young servant delivered a letter to the general's residence. It was one I had written before my death. I asked him to meet me at an abandoned temple outside the city, and he rushed there on horseback without delay. Dismounting, he strode into the temple in 2 steps, looked around at the empty surroundings, and murmured, "Yin Yang, is it really you? Come out, please stop tormenting me." On the altar table sat a cup of tea with a letter pressed beneath it. "Shen Yuang, you need not search any more. I am already dead. The tea is poisoned. If you wish to see me, drink it. I am right beside you, watching you drink it. Shen Yuang. Do you dare to gamble whether this is my test for you? Am I alive or dead? Is the tea poisoned or not? If you drink it, will you die? If you live, will you be able to see me? If you die, will you be able to see me? How about that? Isn't the puzzle I left you quite the headache?" Shen Yuang stared at the cup of tea. To my surprise, he barely thought about it at all, picked up the cup and drank every last drop. "Yin Yang, I have no right to think that much. I wronged you, so I'll do as you say. If you want me to live, I'll live. If you want me to die, I'll die." Shen Yuang, your devotion came too late. I watched him collapse before my eyes. Outside, my dear friend appeared wearing my clothes and with a single flame set ablaze the oil that had long been poured. The flames spread along the base of the wall, engulfing the entire roof in an instant. Shen Yuang was choked awake. "Shen Yuang, you didn't really think I'd let you die that quickly, did you? The tea only contained a sleeping drug. I just wanted to make sure you wouldn't have a chance to escape from the burning building. The thing I regret most in my life is meeting you. I should have let you die in that fire at Shuiyue Nunnery." Shen Yuang struggled to get up, but the fire was too intense. He had nowhere to escape. He forced his eyes open, watching the figure outside, crying out with all his heart, "Yin Yang, I finally found you. You are not dead. Thank goodness, you are not dead. I'll stay by your side." He couldn't speak anymore. His throat had been destroyed by the smoke. I watched the flames lick up the hem of his clothes. He stood there without moving. He smiled, and so did I. My soul gradually became transparent, and suddenly I felt as light as a feather. This must be what it means to be free from all attachments. I've settled my worldly affairs and can finally be reincarnated in peace. Shen Yuang, do you know? A ghost with unfinished obsessions cannot enter the cycle of reincarnation. You saw me. I am still alive. Too bad, you'll never find me again. I want you to wander the mortal world for 10 years, 100 years, 1,000 years, carrying guilt and regret. I want you to become a wandering ghost, never to be reborn for all eternity. Shen Yuang, my life will start anew. And you, stay frozen in this moment forever.